Thai lawmakers have voted to pass 2 bills on constitutional reform, rejecting 5 other proposals. This comes as protesters return to the streets of Bangkok. Less than 24 hours ago, at least 6 people were shot in the most violent clashes in months. Harriman from Bauer Group Asia joins us now. So let's just talk about the bills. 2 bills passed, 5 rejected. The results didn't come as a surprise, did it?
No, I don't believe so. The 2 bills that passed were the more piecemeal of the 7, and they just begin to open up a process for reforming the Constitution. And they passed comfortably with a majority and backed by the 250 appointed senators, the government coalition. The 5 other measures that were more comprehensive, like removing the 250 senators. Opening up some areas for reform of the monarchy, and putting the former junta sort of under the spotlight for possible, investigation. Those didn't pass. But I think the outcome is not surprising.
Jay, the 2 bills on the establishment of the Constitutional Drafting Committee, that has been passed, as you mentioned. What will this committee actually do?
That's a good question that we've all been asking, and I think the protesters as well, because if a lot of the major requests for changes haven't been approved today, then what actually will they be changing? What will they be reforming? Procedurally, they're the 2 that passed. We still need to decide on what the composition of the 2 committees will be. One version has that there'll be 50 people that will be appointed out of 200, and the other is more fully elected. I think that just to boil it down to the brass tacks is that the key measures that the protesters want changed in the Constitution, reform of the monarchy. They want, as I mentioned, the junta to not to be able to get away scot-free from the coup, and other measures are not going to be able to be touched. So what sort of changes is not clear, and it doesn't seem that they would be significant enough to sort of change the political temperature here.
How then do you think the demonstrators will react to it? Do you see them maybe meeting halfway on their demands at some point?
Well, I think they had the opportunity to meet halfway today in the parliamentary vote, and they didn't. I mean, some of the middle ground of not having an outsider prime minister, having a prime minister that was fully elected through the process, having half appointed Senate. There were rooms for compromise, but it didn't really come today. What was passed was just very incremental that would open up a process for changes in the Constitution. I don't think this is going to pacify or satisfy the demonstrators. They wanted. I think the 7th motion is the one that they wanted, which was very comprehensive, addressed a laundry list of things that were not passed today.
So how do you see this playing out this evening then? I mean, yesterday we saw there was some violence, tear gas used, water cannons as well as protesters injured. Right. Is patience wearing thin on both sides though?
Yeah, I would say so. I'm actually right behind the protest. It's right above our office, so I have a pretty good view of what's happening there. It looks like there's probably around 7,000 to 10,000 people this evening. I would say that, last evening we saw that the police used water cannons against the protesters. It didn't appear that the protesters, had rushed them or were firing at them, something to provoke them. They may not have been following the rules or not been granted permission, but it doesn't seem like the police have much more tolerance. And one of the key protest leaders, Parit, he goes by Penguin, he said that there's no more room for compromise and that this is an escalation of the protest. So it doesn't look like that compromise, Thailand being the land of compromise, is happening or coming soon. We do notice, though, that perhaps the number of demonstrators seems to be topping out at around 5,000 to 10,000. So, will they need to broaden their coalition to meet their objectives, or will they lose steam, or will there just be a a hardcore contingent of 5,000 to 10,000 people that continue and carry out these protests is it's not clear yet.
Now, so far we've been seeing, these protests in Bangkok being led by students and young people. What about in rural areas? I mean, is the sentiment consistent across that?
It's noticeable that the majority of the protesters are from Bangkok. They're students, people, youth. I think there's a significant reservoir of support outside of Bangkok. We've seen protests at other universities. I also think that the former red shirts that inhabited the Northeast, that occupied Bangkok in 2010, have expressed that they're sympathetic towards the protesters, but they haven't wanted to get too involved because of the sort of political baggage and their links with the former prime minister. So they kind of let the students sort of lead the way. So there is a reservoir of sort of rural, provincial support, but they haven't mobilized and come to Bangkok to show that support, which is noticeable, and it's a question mark as to will that ever happen, and perhaps why not.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Jay. Jay Harriman from the Bauer Group Asia.